When we were in Japan of October 2018, we were lucky to do a workaway with a really lovely family in Iwanai. And the mom, Akiko-san, or Aki, taught us a ton about Japanese cuisine, especially like home cooking stuff like gobo root, kinoko, and also miso.
So I asked her if she used a store-bought miso paste. She told us to come over to this closet. She opened it and it revealed a very dark, long, narrow closet. It was kind of scary. Inside was her homemade miso paste that was maturing for 3 years, and it inspired us to make our own.
So thank you to Aki for allowing us to share her recipe with you guys. But first, we're gonna go over some miso making basics. For example, if you're making this today, you're not gonna be able to eat it tonight. In fact, it's probably gonna take at least several months depending on which type of miso you're gonna make. And of course, the longer you have, the better.
So if you're still on this video and we didn't lose you, miso paste is made by the fermentation of soybeans and koji. Now koji is a mold grown on grains, and it's used to make sake, miso, and other things. So one of the important factors to keep in mind when making miso paste is the temperature. You don't want your mashed soybeans to be too hot when you mix it with the koji because it will kill the mold. The second temperature sensitive thing to keep in mind is storage. You want it in a cold, dry area.
And another thing is that you want to start with a completely sterile container because you don't want to be growing other stuff with your miso. Similarly, when you pack your miso, you want to pack it down tight because if there are air pockets, you're going to also allow other things to grow in there. And when you're packing it, you're going to have to weigh down your miso so that as it ferments, as it releases things, it doesn't explode.
Water is very important. The reason why Aki's miso paste is so good is because of her water source. She explains that her water source being from the natural springs of Mount Yote is what makes her miso paste incredibly delicious. So don't go using just any old tap water that you have unless you live next to a spring. With that in mind, let's get started. To make your own miso paste at home, you're going to need soybeans, koji, filtered or spring water, and some sea salt. Start by washing 1 kilogram of soybeans and soaking it for at least 18 hours or overnight. On the next day, you're going to cook your soybeans with your filtered or spring water. If you're boiling it straight up, it takes about 3 to 4 hours, but you can use a pressure cooker, which will take 30 minutes after full pressure. While that's cooking, you're going to combine 1 kilogram of koji and 300 grams of sea salt, saving 2 tablespoons of sea salt for the end. Your soybeans are done cooking if you can easily mash it with your thumb and your pinky. If you're finished, go ahead and drain it, saving about 400 milliliters of your soybean water. Next, you're going to mash the soybeans as best as you can with a potato masher, or you can use a food processor instead. Do your best to mash them all, but if you miss some, that's okay. Next, it's really important that you get this temperature right. You want it warm or room temperature before you add in your koji. If you're under 100 degrees Fahrenheit, then you're okay. If everything's at the right spot, go ahead and mix your koji and your soybeans together, gradually adding your soybean water to the mix. Then you're gonna pack yourself some balls, make sure it's nice and tight, and throw it at the bottom of your sterilized container. The reason why we chuck it at the bottom of the container is to help us pack it down tightly. Remember, we don't want any air pockets in any of this miso. When you've finished packing it down, go ahead and sprinkle the rest of the sea salt right on top of the miso mix. Then cover it with a plastic. You don't want any of this miso exposed to air. Then you're gonna weigh it down with either a brick or some dry rice or even a vacuum sealed pouch of water. Cover it and store it in a cool, dark, dry area to ferment for the next few months.
Okay, so we're gonna let this guy ferment for 3 months and then we're gonna check back in, give it a little mix, stamp it back down. We're not gonna taste it here yet. We're gonna wait until 6 months in order to taste the miso. So stick around, we'll check back in. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and join our home base on Scene. And we can talk all sorts of stuff about miso and food and yoga and all the good stuff. You guys can give us questions there or comments. And other than that, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.